What's going on and what's happening, and welcome into the Week 13 edition of the College Football Show. Do not be alarmed by the change in scenery. Just a little bit. It is still I, Treavor Scales, holding you down. Harry Douglas to my right now, and over my left shoulder is one Gary Striewski holding us down as well over there at the bar. Gary, what's up, baby?
What's going on, fellas? I'm excited for this next hour, but a revelation has occurred.
Yeah.
Mr. Harry Douglas, a proud Louisville alum.
Yeah.
An Orange Bowl champion.
Yeah.
But for the last 3 hours, this man has been the biggest Texas A&M fan on the planet Earth right now. And Harry, I can't wait to see what your mentions look like over the course of the next hour, because you're about to go in. Georgia, you got to go home there.
Yes,
after this show.
He does. He's got to catch a flight back to Atlanta by ASAP, and he has some things to say about the Dogs.
I was always told, if you want respect in this business, in this media world, in this business, talk what you know, talk what you not actually feel, talk with your facts, and I'm going to spit them to y'all.
And that's why we just go talk a little football right about now. Let's get right into it. We'll open things up with the biggest noon matchup of the day. We'll get back to the SEC action later. It will begin with the Big Ten between Penn State and Ohio State. You are a fan of this pregame activity, weren't you, Aaron?
I love every bit of it.
You got to, and you got to love every bit of Justin Fields, the things that he was doing. He was a bit off to start the game, but he finally got in his groove. That helped. They got the quarterback draw game going, and they got on the board early. They get their slimmest margin of victory on the season. It was still a double-digit win over the Penn State Nittany Lions, but I'm seeing that this is the most complete team in college football over and over again.
Yes, they are. And I thought for Penn State to be able to have a chance today, they needed to shut Justin Fields down running the football and make him a passer.
For sure.
He was efficient today. He did what he had to do. He did have two turnovers, and those fumbles cost him and allowed Penn State to come back in that ball game. But I'm telling you, this guy made throw after throw when the game was on the line. When he had to do it, he was lights out.
Yeah, he was 16 for 22 on the day, 188 yards. So not the video game numbers we're used to seeing from him, but you mentioned the 2 turnovers, but did have 2 passing touchdowns. He's now got 11 straight games with 2 passing touchdowns. That's the longest streak within Buckeyes history. But he and both J.K. Dobbins really did will that offense to a victory. A season-high 36, career-high 36 rushes for J.K., only wrapped up 157 yards, but dude was a workhorse at the end of the day.
Well, and that's what he's been for this Ohio State Buckeyes team this year. You got to think about the first drive Ohio State had. They had 12 runs, 1 pass. It ended with a 4-yard run, touchdown run by J.K. Dobbins. He's been the bell cow or the cowbell, whichever way you want to put it. It doesn't matter. He's just been that guy for Ohio State offensively that you can rely on week in and week out and get you over the hump.
And on the lowest of keys, it felt like Ryan Day was on a mission to kind of set the record straight about the Penn State defense and what they were doing against the run. He went in there with a mentality of, no, we're just going to stretch your face and we're going to go right down the field with it. Defensively, though, I mentioned a complete team. That was the Ohio State Buckeyes. Yeah, our AT&T best performer comes courtesy of the defensive side of the ball, and that's one Chase Young. This brother is on another planet. He took 2 weeks off because of the NCAA situation that he had going on, but Buddy was back with a vengeance. He comes back, sets the Ohio State single-season sack record early on in the game, continues on to rack up 4 tackles for loss. That includes 3 sacks. He's got 16.5 on this season. Again, the most in Ohio State history. And again, he was down 2 games as far as being able to rack up those numbers.
So here you go. Dear Michigan, dear whoever plays Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, dear whoever plays Ohio State in the college football playoffs, if you leave Chase Young one-on-one with an offensive player, a tackle, a tight end, don't matter what it is, he is going to wreck your game. So I am tired of seeing these offensive coordinators allowing their tackles to block this guy one-on-one because it hasn't been successful yet.
Yeah.
So if you want Chase Young to wreck your game, leave him one-on-one.
Exactly. Essentially, you deserve all the stats that he racks up if you have the audacity to put him one-on-one.
Crazy because I cannot believe that these offensive coordinators are allowing one man to wreck their game and not double teaming them, not chipping them, not cut blocking them, nothing. Nothing.
You need some semblance of help, assistance to the person that's assigned to blocking him. Slide to full protection. I don't see why you need to disguise it when you realize how much how dominant of a player he is.
You know what's coming.
As it presently sits, I know it's very, very early to start talking. Actually, it's never too early to start talking NFL draft, but the Bengals are sitting there with currently the top overall pick, and they have to really have that target on Chase Young, right? They already have Andy Dalton through 2020. I know quarterbacks are always going to be at the premium, but obviously with what happened to Tua, Joe Burrow's the next guy up, who's probably going to be the first quarterback off the board.
Feels like it.
But seeing what Chase Young is doing every single week to anybody that he plays, he's one of those rare defensive players who opposing offenses are going to have to completely build a game plan around.
Yeah, dog, like for me, he is the runaway best player in the class. He's the most dominant player in the class, but I feel like we're going to go to the shorts and t-shirts workouts portion of the offseason, and a quarterback's going to jump to the top of the board. That just feels like how the game goes.
Ohio State is in what state? Ohio. What state is Cincinnati in?
Oh, right. Yeah, sure. There you go.
Right
You're talking about jersey sales.
Yeah.
You're talking about things that's going to fill the seats and make these fans come back in. I think drafting Chase Young, because I think they also have Finley that they drafted. Yeah. So they need to put him in more, see what he can do. If he's not the guy, then you draft another quarterback. If you think Finley is promising, then you go for Chase Young.
Harry Douglas with the geography lesson as well.
Coach, we'll get you right here on the College Football Show presented by AT&T.
Baby. That's that Louisville education.
I love it. I love it. But to go back to your point about jersey sales and the whole ties to the area, I'd be remiss, shout out to my boy Isaac over in the control room, about his connection back to the DMV area, and another team that's struggling in the NFL would be the Washington football franchise. Yep. And for that reason, they're also going to have
currently in position number 2 right now, but they already have a quarterback. Yeah, Dwayne Haskins, the guy of the future.
But they have a quarterback that the head coach they got rid of didn't believe in, and right now he's not showing promise to be in the future in Washington. So it may get to a point to where Washington has to make a tough decision. Do we take another quarterback and try to move Haskins and not draft Chase Young? So it's going to be some tough decisions that's going to be made in the front offices down there in Washington.
You know what's not a tough decision? Just deciding to pick Bama in just about every single contest that they play. So let's move on to the next highlight here. They were playing Western Carolina. Tua obviously out. He really got messed up on that one play that happened. A dislocated hip, a broken nose, and a concussion. He was in the Bills and got all kinds of love pre-game, but Mac Jones stepped into that starting role, and courtesy of all the weapons around him, he was able to make something shake pretty easily.
Listen, the announcer said today, Mac Jones, all he has to do is play point guard. Distribute the football, let your playmakers make plays. And for Alabama to even be in the hunt right now to make the playoffs, I thought they had to score 60, 70 plus today. They have to beat Auburn by a 35, 40-point margin next week to even give them other discussion. But looking at certain games today, Alabama's not out of the picture, I don't think.
They still have the brand power, the brand recognition, but they do come to play every single week, and that's why Nick Saban likely felt comfortable playing Tua as long as he did, because that's a program that, for as much benefit of the doubt as we give them, there's a reason why we say that they essentially have interchangeable parts, because they do have the next blue chip cat ready to go in the wake in the event of an injury as catastrophic as
Tua. And think about it, with those weapons at Alabama, all you have to do is distribute the ball, hand the ball to Najee Harris, get the ball. Listen, they wasn't even with one of their top receivers, Henry Ruggs, today. So you add him back to the equation coming down the line, and all you got to do is just distribute. It's ball distribution. Get it to my playmakers. Do not. It's back to the old thing that Nick Saban, don't lose me the game at the quarterback position.
Correct.
I want you to manage the game and make sure we tee off the right way.
Ain't a dang thing wrong with being a game manager as a quarterback, especially in an offense as well equipped as that one. Moving on, back to the Big Ten on the College Football Show presented by AT&T. Minnesota taking on Northwestern. The number 10 team in all the land was down in Evanston, I believe. Yes, Evanston, Illinois. And we had some wonderful catches that we'll revisit later on in the show. But this Minnesota program bounced back nicely after the first loss of the season down in Kinnick. And though their playoff hopes may have been dashed, they can still make a run for the Big Ten championship at the very least.
Well, I'll tell you, with the skill positions, the skill players that they do have, you have Bateman, you have Tyler Johnson, you have Rodney Smith. Those guys can play. That's not what worries me. What worries me is when I looked at this Minnesota game against Iowa last week, and you had Epinesa, and you had that D-line for Iowa putting pressure on Tanner Morgan, play in and play out. Now, next week you have a Wisconsin team who are stout on defense. You win that game, not only do you have to face them, you have to face Ohio State, who have Chase Young.
Correct.
So I'm worried about this offensive line for Minnesota. Can they get the job done? Can they do enough to get Minnesota over the hump next week? And if they do next week, can they make it a ball game in the Big Ten championship against Ohio State?
That's exactly right. That's the direct path, and we'll see exactly if they decide to scheme somebody up to actually help out with blocking Chase Young. He'll be the first team to do so, apparently. In any case, moving on to the Big Ten, let's get more of the east side of things, and that includes Michigan, who had Indiana today. I thought it was going to be a lot closer than it did, but they were down a star wide receiver, and their quarterback got injured early on, and Michigan just really is starting to put things together right now that really makes you think this could wind up being quite the game at the end of the season against Ohio State.
I'm really impressed with Shea Patterson. He's really stepped up to the plate after struggling early in the season. He delivering the football to guys like Ronnie Bell. You have Nico Collins. You have Sean Barnett, who's doing things. You have Haskins. They're doing it by committee at the running back position. But you look on the other side of the ball, I think their strong point is their linebacking crew. You have Hudson. You have Glasgow. You have Uche. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but you have those guys, those three guys in the linebacking core that they're the staple for this Michigan defense. They're making plays in, and you have those big guys up front eating up blocks so those guys can get downhill.
Run free.
And make plays.
Yeah, Don Brown always does a great job scheming cats up. He's always going to have that defense ready to ball, and it feels like they've hit their stride, and the offense is just kind of allowing Shea Patterson to distribute to the right people around him so that he can just kind of take advantage of the athlete.
And what I like about Shea of late, he's not losing them football games.
Right.
He's managing the game in the correct fashion. He's not turning the football over. He's getting them into the right plays. And if it's not there, he's just throwing the football away. And that's what the head coach wants from him.
Again, just manage the game. It's all good. Don't screw it up. We're going to rip the Band-Aid off. Let's get to it. Oh, Harvard-Yale.
This is bad.
Yes, it is. And this was an interesting moment. At halftime, there were protests against climate change. At halftime, hundreds of students ended up heading out to the field. We had a 48-minute delay out of halftime just to get to the third quarter. Harvard was up. It was 15-3. I was feeling good. And then the second half happened. I do want to give a little bit of a shout-out, though. So, Aiden Bourget, 264 rushing yards of the game. Second most in a single game in Harvard history. The most in a Harvard-Yale game. You want to know who had it before this is over?
Tell us, baby.
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah.
Treavor Scales. Let's go. Let's go.
All of that celebration.
Treavor Scales.
Look at that young Treavor Scales.
All of that celebration was for naught at the end of this thing. We got into OT. We scored each trade touchdowns in OT. Things were getting dark, and Yale doesn't have lights at their stadium. Do not be fooled by the picture on your screen. We really couldn't see much if you were on field level. It was a very interesting way for things to play out. Harvard loses in double overtime. I'm sick still.
I was very, very disappointed on how that game finished out because Harvard controlled that football game from start to finish. They didn't come out, and you know what was the worst thing about it, though, Treavor?
What's that, man?
Man, I hated looking at you in that room on my way of watching that game. You were sweating bullets. Treavor didn't care about no other game.
I did it.
TVs in there. He was focused on Harvard, Yale. But a couple weeks ago when I was on here, what sign did I pick?
You picked Yale. You did.
Whoa.
What's blasphemous.
On my set. You're my boy, Blue.
On my set. It was blasphemous.
That hurts.
I could not. I lost control of my show.
I messed up, too, because the last update I got, Harvard-Yale, Harvard was up a score, less than a minute to go. That's the last I heard of this game. And then I came in, I was like, okay, this is going to be a good show. Right, Harvard clearly won, so let me make this the first thing I mentioned to Treavor. Lo and behold, that happened. So this is my formal apology on internet TV, Treavor. I didn't mean to start the day off like that. That's a tough one.
Listen, man, that was brutal. It was
I literally thought you came in and did it on purpose.
I did it, and I did it.
When you said it, I was dying laughing.
Oh, that's on me.
That's how things go. It's fine. Look, that's how things go on the college football show presented by AT&T. We all love each other. We can do something like that to each other. We can also have very spirited banter, and that's just something that's a part of college football at large. Speaking of spirited banter, yeah, he's shrugging his shoulders because he got into it with a certain someone on Rankings Reaction earlier this week.
I got to ask you this. Who have they played for you to determine that?
What are you talking about?
The last 6 games for UGA, they played against nothing but second-string quarterbacks. They haven't played against them. They haven't played against.
But nevertheless, if we always do that, they can only play who's on their schedule. They have one of the top defenses in the nation.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But you can't say they're a top defense if they're going against second-string quarterbacks.
You said what is their strength, and I said their strength is their defense. You disagree? What do you think their strength is?
I don't think they have one.
So, that was a discussion about the Georgia Bulldogs. Our very own Elle Duncan, our very own Harry Douglas, getting into it a little bit. Again, just spirited debate, just to kind of close the door on this. Well, not necessarily close the door because we're opening a discussion. Georgia wins 19-13. Jake Fromm, 11 of 23 on the day, a touchdown and 163 yards. Not a necessarily awe-inspiring performance, but there were elements at play. They still were able to get the run game going in some sense of it. DeAndre Swift goes for 19 rushes and 103 yards. But again, they get the job done. And I know, Harry, that it's not necessarily the most impressive win by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a matter of them kind of figuring out a way to win it. And so we like to, again, I personally, frankly, like to pour kerosene on little rivalries like we had on Rankings Reaction. And for that reason, we might as well just bring somebody that had that spirited discussion with Harry Douglas. Elle Duncan, is she ready to talk to us? She is.
Yeah, I'm ready. I stay strapped. And also, I just had to turn off Nas, which is fitting because I'm about to ether Harry Douglas. Ooh. No, was it super impressive? What should be impressive to you, Trevor, and especially to Harry, yes. They don't have a single strength as the number 4 team country. Douglas, is that they have now taken down their 4th-ranked opponent, okay? On a nasty, disgusting day, which South Carolina got the better of them in exact conditions like today. They pull out a gutty win and will face the LSU Tigers in the SEC Championship with an opportunity to play for the rest of their season.
Now
Harry
I have
Douglas.
to stop you, Elle. The number 4 team that played today definitely did not look like the number 4 team in the country. Once again, Texas A&M offense looked at remedial.
You don't have any strengths.
At times,
so, Harry, they played exactly as you would expect, considering they have no strength,
Elle,
Harry.
it's my turn. You had your turn. They did not look like the number 4 team in the country. They haven't all year, so I'm not putting them in that spot. I'm putting Oregon ahead of them. After watching Alabama today, I'm going to put Alabama ahead of them. Listen, Georgia is not like that. Your quarterback can't hit wide open touchdown receivers. You got the defense playing against poo-poo offenses week in and week out. Just wait till the SEC championship game when LSU comes into the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta and hangs 60-70 up on UGA.
Oh, no.
And if they don't, then what, Harry? 60-70.
Then I got to give you, if they do not, I have to give you your credit. I have to give you your credit.
What do they have in the green room at the college football show that you were apparently ingesting?
And you know what?
Insane.
I was wrong the other day. Georgia does have a strength. It just happens to be their kicker. Their kicker is a strength on their football team because they can rely on Blankenship at any time.
No, is Jake Fromm great? No. But their running attack, per usual, is top 10. So shut up, Harry.
Turn up, Elle Duncan. We appreciate it here on the College Football Show.
In fact, the only reason I'm going to let you off the hook is because my husband says you helped him win a few games in Madden.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Outside of
family
that,
love.
that's why you're not going to get dragged.
Hey, shut
Good
up.
night.
I still love you.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you, Harry.
She out. Well, on that, I think that was some very salient points brought up by Elle Duncan. I, as a fellow Georgia fan, can appreciate the fact that she is bringing up the fact that it is a very strong rushing attack that they have, though it may dip at times and very inconvenient times. But again, gutting out wins, I think there's something to value in that. And frankly, when it comes to the separation.
I can't value that, Trevor, because they're gutting out wins against teams that have offenses that can hardly even get first down.
Are we taking into account elements or anything like that? Because again,
no, I'm not taking elements into no account. Because,
no, we're not. How
listen,
can we not?
They beat a Kentucky team who had a receiver and the leading rusher for Kentucky, the leading receiver for Kentucky, had to go to quarterback, and they beat him 21-zip. I'm not giving you credit and telling me that you're a top defense for that. When you're going against second-string quarterbacks week in and week out, and people say Bo Nix is a starter. Bo Nix plays like a second-string high school quarterback, third-string quarterback. So he is in the conversation. Kellen Mond today. Kellen Mond is a dual-threat quarterback. If he uses his legs to his advantage, and I don't even know if I put that all on him. I got to throw some of that on Jimbo Fisher. He did not use Kellen Mond in the correct way today, because early on we see some runs. If Kellen Mond just would have pulled the ball, he would have had daylight to run.
There were opportunities there, but speaking of opportunities, it feels like the Georgia defense takes advantage of opportunities, and they are opportunistic in as far as turnovers go. So what then are we supposed to make of, again, elite versus opportunistic is the discussion to be had.
I can't crown them as being one of the nation's top defense if you're not going against any of the nation's top offenses. But you get your chance. Don't worry. Don't worry. They will get their chance against LSU.
Like you said, it's set up beautifully to kind of hash this out.
If that was LSU today, they was playing against?
Yeah, no, that's not.
It would have been a different ballgame.
Oh, without question. You're playing from behind for a majority of that game because they have the big play capability.
They need to be worried about Jake Fromm and why he can't complete wide open passes.
There is
missing wide open touchdowns week in and week out.
High level of concern at quarterback for the Dogs is just as far as it's just not pretty. It's not the fact that it's bad, but there are so many different things that have shaken out in his favor, right? We saw a drive, we were listening to the broadcast and everything, in which he completed 2 goal balls. And I had missed the drive going to the restroom or changing or something. Came back and heard the commentators mention that was a lot of Jake Fromm on that drive. Yes. But in actuality, you corrected me and said, like, he underthrew 2 receivers that should have been touchdowns.
And somebody tweeted me and was like, right time for the tweet. And I was like, bro, I played receiver. Those were 2 goal balls that the receiver won on the routes. Jake Fromm underthrew both of the balls. He didn't back shoulder the balls purposely, and the receivers caught the ball. So the announcers said, oh, Jake Fromm, he did it all on this drive.
Right, yeah.
And I'm looking like, are you kidding me right now? Like, you really have to be, and you know what I really want to say, are you me right now?
Right.
So, fill in the blanks, folks.
But again, this is a family show.
It's a kid-friendly show.
This is the college football show presented by AT&T. And to continue this discussion, we like to bring in more and more voices. That begins with Ryan McGee as well. But this is all centered around the larger playoff picture. And it is a road that we like to travel down. And as the current slate of things sets, you have your 4 at the moment. You mentioned that Bama looked really impressive against, albeit Western Carolina, but again, they dominated the way you expected them to, didn't miss a beat whatsoever. Georgia, again, guts out a win, something that Harry's not going to sit here and qualify and give credence to, and that's understandable. Clemson has South Carolina next week. You expect that to be a blowout, and Ohio State takes care of business against Penn State. We'll see LSU later on this evening. They kick off in about 9 or so minutes. But this is how we look at things at the moment. The potential to have 2 SEC teams in the playoff picture at the end of this bad boy. And I think it's a very real possibility, given the fact not only that Georgia currently sits there and has a chance to pick off the number 1 team in the nation, but Bama in the wake has looked just as impressive before they lost Tua.
Well, they did, and I thought Bama was actually going to be out of the discussion when they lost to her. But watching them today on the national TV scene, it reminded me that these guys have weapons all over the field. And Mac Jones just can't mess it up. Now, if they beat Auburn next week by 35, 40-plus points, then Alabama has a legit argument. Yeah. They have a legit argument for that playoff spot.
Oh, without question.
But what doesn't need to happen, I'll tell you this, for the Pac-12 and for Bama, is for Georgia to beat LSU. That's going to ruin a lot of things because the SEC at that point will have to get two teams in.
It goes into hysteria, and that's something we can kind of sort out with one Ryan McGee, who joins us now on the College Football Show presented by AT&T. And McGee, just want to get your opinion right off the top, man. Georgia wins today. How likely is it that we're going to see 2 SEC teams in this college football playoff, bro?
Well, I'm literally on the road, just left Athens. And I can tell you, I heard you guys talking a few minutes ago about should the elements factor in. Yes, I'm wringing out every bit of clothing I have. The water was spilling over into my shoes.
Ryan, you signed up for this when you decided to be in the media world.
I'm just telling you. I love sitting on social media and everybody's like, Kellen Mond can't throw it and Jake Fromm can't throw it. I'm like, whatever. You know what? I can't even hang on to my notebook right now. Everything's soaked. So anyhow, but listen, I don't know that Georgia is a college football playoff team. Their defense is a college football playoff defense. And I don't know that there's a lot of those out there right now. So listen, this is going to sort itself out. Right down the road from where I am, they will play LSU. And we'll find out if they can keep up with one of these high-powered offenses. Leaving Athens right now, I say no, but they got a couple weeks to work on it.
So, Ryan, I wanted to ask you, once again, this is Harry Douglas talking to you.
Yeah, man.
When you say that the Georgia defense is a college football playoff defense, what are you basing that off of? The second-string quarterbacks they've been going through the last few weeks, or
I'm basing it off
the non-explosive offenses they've been facing?
Last week against Auburn,
against
the first rushing touchdown they've given up this season.
But they gave up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. If you're an elite defense, I don't think that happens.
One rushing touchdown in the middle of November in 2019.
But Ryan,
that has to count for something.
And I know you studied. Have you studied who they've been playing the last 5 or 6 weeks?
I work for the SEC
My
network.
point exactly,
I watch everybody.
That's why if anybody should know, you should know. They have been playing against poor offenses the last 5 or 6 weeks, teams who can barely even move the ball up and down the field, going against second-string quarterbacks, not to mention which one of them actually beat you at home. in Helinski in South Carolina. So I can't crown them. Now, don't get me wrong. Georgia is a good defense. Now, to say that they're an elite defense, I can't crown them in that manner.
Now, I heard you earlier, and I appreciate your point. I'm just telling you, I don't care what conference you're in. I don't care what league you're in. I don't care if you're playing in the World League of American Football. If you're sitting at 9-10 games and you're giving it one rushing touchdown, at some point you have to give the defense a little bit of credit. Not to mention the fact that the offense has been so bad.
But I said they're a good defense.
Kept them in the games.
I said they're a good defense.
So, McGee, help us kind of sort out this deal with the Crimson Tide, too, because Alabama's sitting here at the 5 slot. They lose the dynamic player that is Tua Tagovailoa to a hip injury and all the host of other things that he goes down with in that instance. But this team seems to be rolling right along. And, again, we're waiting to see them against Auburn. We're waiting to see what they can do in a different setting other than the bye week before rivalry week. But how possible is it that Alabama sneaks into this bad boy, and what's the path of least resistance for them to get there?
No, listen, I've said this 100 times this week. What a crazy time we're living in when the question is, can Alabama win because they don't have their quarterback? Because all due respect to Greg McElroy and A.J. McCarron and all those guys who have rings, the quarterback kind of didn't matter a lot of times because it was about the running game and defense. So now Alabama might be going back to that a little bit. And I think Nick Saban's kind of pulling out 10 or 15 pages from the 2008 playbook. But yeah, they certainly look good today. But that being said, I'm from the state of North Carolina. Western Carolina is a perfectly lovely place. But they got no business playing Alabama, and Alabama has no business playing them. That told us nothing. We'll find out next week. It
feels like they have a lot of interchangeable parts, but you, Ryan McGee, you are irreplaceable. We appreciate you joining us here on the College Football Show.
He does a great job, too. You do a great job, Ryan.
I appreciate that, too.
No doubt, no doubt. So let's check out what is going on right now and what you have to look forward to this evening in college football to wrap up Week 13. Your night slate going down right now. Number 1, LSU and Arkansas getting ready to kick off, or they've already kicked off. That's on ESPN. Number 19, Cincy trying to lock up the AAC East in their tilt against Temple. But your main course for the evening, a Pac-12 showdown in Tempe. Sun Devils taking on a number 8 Oregon team that's just trying to stay in the college football playoff combo. Oregon's got things clicking on both sides of the ball, but don't think they're going to get caught slipping out there on the road. Ducks trying to go 1-0 these next few weeks and hope for some help in front of them in the rankings. Let's get help from our own Maria Taylor.
All right, we've made our way to Arizona State. There's the man of the hour, Justin Herbert. He's been playing pretty well, completing about 70% of his passes right now. And the big storyline, I feel like, for Oregon is the fact that their defense hasn't given up more than 10 points so far in the last few weeks that we've seen them. Now, Mario Cristobal said November is basically rounds 11 through 15 if you're talking about November. It's a heavyweight championship matchup between Oregon and Arizona State. And you know what's on the line? A playoff berth. But I gotta tell you, every single Sunday they have a discussion about the rankings so they don't let it get them all tied up into what they're doing on the field. And that's why they feel like they're gonna come out very balanced in this one. So we'll continue to watch Justin and the offense warm up, and we'll see how they play against the Sun Devils here in Tempe tonight.
Let's continue our primetime preview by getting you coached up on both teams involved. We can do that with today's lesson, and that's presented by Dos Equis, and it comes to you courtesy of one Dan Orlovsky.
Hey, this is Dan Orlovsky with the College Football Show, and today's lesson is on how Justin Herbert and the Oregon Ducks can stick a fork into Arizona State tonight and keep their college football playoff hopes alive. Key number 1, Oregon's defense.
Intercepted! It's a pick 6, and the Ducks back on top.
Top 10 unit in the country, leading the country in interceptions. Arizona State's offense has struggled when they've played against good defenses, dominate the game on primetime television. And then key number 2, Justin Herbert to Juwan Johnson.
He's taking a shot, going for Johnson, caught, touchdown!
One of the more dynamic and explosive quarterback-wide receiver duos in the country, dominate downfield. That's today's lesson.
And so Oregon's got quite the matchup in Herm and them in the Sun Devils out of Arizona State. They'll be in Tempe for this tilt, and Oregon's got a lot to prove. They've got 2 teams ahead of them in Georgia and Alabama that they've got to leapfrog through some sort of semblance of chaos. But as long as they keep performing well, again, their one loss is to Auburn, who isn't necessarily a bad team. They've fallen off as of late, but they're still somebody that you can look at on their resume as an understandable loss. I hate using the term good loss, but it's an understandable loss in week 1.
Well, I'll tell you this, tonight's game on primetime TV couldn't be a better situation for Oregon. You get to show the world at a decent hour what you're made of, what your defense is made of, what your quarterback who's going to be drafted probably in the top 10 picks in the draft is about. But for Oregon, to me, it's about the 3 H's. You have Herbert, Hansen, offensive lineman, and you have Holland. Right now, he's tied for 5th in the national. I'm talking about National Football League, in NCAA with interceptions. So those 3 guys are the staples for this Oregon football team, but not to mention you have a running back in Verdell who can do it receiving, he can do it running, and his vision is unbelievable.
There's a level of physicality that Oregon's playing with that's really second to none, right? Especially when it talks about that offensive line front that they've got going in front of them. But again, Gary, we got 2 teams in front of them that they've got to leapfrog in Georgia and Bama.
And it's
going to be tough to do.
The only resistance that you hear from people who are anti-Oregon is, well, but what about Alabama or what about Georgia? But they haven't lost since September 1st. And since then, they've had a game where they hang up 70, they hang up 60. And you know the committee, they like offense. They want to see points scored. So we can't keep just paying attention to every team east of the Mississippi, especially when Oregon is doing exactly what Maria said from her field hit. They've allowed 10 points for how many consecutive weeks. So not only are we talking about the Oregon offense that everybody is accustomed to, we know they like to spread it out.
Just as a brand, yeah.
But to Harry's point, more people are actually going to be able to see, oh, wait, this isn't just that Oregon team that hangs out in the Great Northwest. And if we're going to talk about incorporating elements, I didn't think you were serious asking that question. Oregon is never dry in Oregon. So, like, I mean, they're always battling wind and
That's why
wet.
Gary's the man.
So, listen, if we're talking about elements, I mean, yeah, they're right now in sunny Arizona right now, and that week 1 loss was in a controlled environment at Jerry's.
In the dome, yeah.
However, there's really no logical argument for people to say Oregon doesn't deserve a shot when all they've done is won, and majority of those games they've won convincingly, and the only resistance is, but put in Georgia, especially when we talk about.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, Power 5, but if only 2 or sometimes 3 conferences are getting love, I mean, where's the balance? People want balance. You show.
It comes down to eye test, and this is a matter of them getting the right set of eyes that Harry mentioned, right? Like, it's a primetime window in which you can showcase. No, we are playing some ball, so make sure you pay attention.
And when's the last time, I mean, hopefully it's not recently, that a Pac-12 team, an SEC team, an ACC team, and a Big Ten team all make the college football playoff? I mean, has it happened?
Well, no, and I think, well, it may have once.
Yeah, there was one.
But I will tell you what's going to help Oregon out, Utah winning, because Utah is so strong defensively, and their quarterback Huntley is playing remarkable this year. They go to the Pac-12 championship game, and you beat them convincingly. The committee has no choice but to put Oregon in.
Real quick, we're assuming Oregon rolls in this one?
Yeah, I think Oregon's going to roll.
Yeah, I got Oregon as well. Gary?
Oregon's winning, because I don't want to look stupid after I just said that, and then they lose, and like, that's why they're not in the playoff discussion.
Yeah, be careful.
Somebody who has no business not being in the playoff discussion, matter of fact, they might as well just cement their ticket. LSU. Matter of fact, Joe Burrow, give him the Heisman right now. We got an update. They're in Death Valley. The 1-2 hookup between he and Jamar Chase. You got Justin Jefferson there on the other side. And LSU off and running. We knew Arkansas really wasn't going to come into Death Valley and give it much. This is just more of a tune-up.
I'm surprised that there's even a crooked number on the left side or right side of that.
I'm so impressed with LSU and Joe Burrow and Edwards-Helaire and these receivers. They have a 3-headed monster at receiver. I'm so impressed in crucial moments this year, time in and time out. When they needed a drive to go down and solidify a win for their football team, they've been able to do so.
There's something to be said, though, that defense worries me, right? Like,
the defense does worry.
40-plus hung on you by Bama in a
shootout last week
like
against Ole Miss.
Correct.
Like,
but my thing is, how much do you worry about your defense when you have an offense that you know it's going to get you over the hump? time in, week week out, though.
It covers you quite a bit. There's no doubt about that. Like, you can lean on a certain unit of.
Listen, if they wasn't a high-power LSU this year, they'll have a loss or two right about.
Oh yeah, without question. In any case, let's move on with the College Football Show presented by AT&T. It is our top plays portion of the program, and it is a matter of not being able to say holy bleep. We say holy cow around here, and we do so and score it a courtesy of the semblance of moves or whatever have you. Let's head down to Auburn for the first one. Treavor Whitlow. Nice little 29-yard game, but it's a spin move that we're concerned about against Samford, albeit the Bulldogs out of the state of Alabama that aren't necessarily ones that you're reminded of. But look, I thought it was a decent play. For that reason, I give it an 80, borderline B grade, and so we like to have a little discussion. We've had plenty of them on this here College Football Show, and so we're going to open up the floor. Fellas, I want you to give me your honest critique of my score with your very own scores.
Don't be peeking, Trevor.
I'm not peeking.
I'm giving it 56 based off of what you said at the tail end of that. It was Auburn against Samford. You're supposed to do that against teams like that. And I know it's specifically about the actual play we just witnessed, and I was dizzy just watching it, but there's a little bit higher of a bar there for me, Trevor.
56, though, like, again, there's a difference of going down, knocking them a few points. 56?
I said what I said.
He went 56 nights like DJ Esco went Future. I like it. And I'm going to give it.
I wrote what I wrote.
I'm sorry, but you're not going to be too happy about mine either. I gave it a 68.
Again, what are we doing?
Because when you do a spin move like that, you're supposed to go score. He didn't have the burners.
That was a key point. Again, but like 12 points feels really aggressive as far as how much we're going to drop.
I can't believe you gave it an 80 though, Trevor.
It's a B minus. Like that's not a fair. A B minus is not a fair grade.
Greatness is all we.
And I don't even have my paper towel to wipe it off, so I'm just going to do it like this right here.
Okay, just kidding.
That was hilarious.
Oh, look.
But they're still haters.
That's like the stuff I put in my hair to darken it.
Holy cow. That comes to us from Maryland. This next play in the Holy Cow was an impressive reeling in of the football. Yeah, right. So Maryland has several chances to intercept this bad boy, but J.D. Spielman of Nebraska, Scott Frost's recent extension, I just want to test it there again. He reels this one in despite all the deflections. The concentration is in there. Reels it in for the score. And I gave this your number, Aaron Douglas, because I could see you being at the right place at the right time and capitalizing on a play like that. That was some homage to you, bro.
Can I go first this time?
Yeah, go ahead. Do your thing.
Okay, so to make that catch, your awareness, where you're at on the field, your hand-eye coordination has to be on point. So I'm going to have to give that an 89.
Okay, see, all right. I need to figure out what the scale is here because you went down to 68 on the last. Like, that feels, I don't know. I feel like we're all
look how many people tip that football, and you have to have the hand-eye coordination.
So you're right.
And the awareness to get your feet inbound.
Right place, right time. Yeah, exactly. For sure.
We also have to pay consideration to what team this is. This is the Nebraska Cornhuskers. This is Tommy Osborne. This is Frazier running it down your throat. So anytime it's a receiving touchdown, it's in the 90s for me. Listen, I grew up in Colorado watching Nebraska games and Eric Crouch just triple optioning and just keeping it every time. They threw like 4 times a game and not much has changed. The extension is great. So I'm giving this a 98. If you're dyslexic, that's great because it's Harry's score just reversed.
I can't believe you gave it a 98. But
that
Gary,
feels so
tip
you're
drill.
my boy, so I'm going to go.
Listen, that's tip drill. It makes perfect sense.
That's incredible. What are we doing? Just handing out like A+ grades.
And also, you pressured me for my 56.
You better not come near 98 for this next one. And actually, if you do, I'm just going to question your assessment of the previous one. Donovan Peoples-Jones. He reels this one in and he flexes afterwards for good reason. Man's getting the and one over the IU defender in their win today. Rotating back, Donovan Peoples-Jones reels that one in, and I'm giving that a 92, bro. Like, that's wildly impressive. It's not a 98.
Oh, you hate me.
What is boy about to
Harry, you go first, though. Harry, you go.
Go ahead.
I'm going to go to first. Hey, Peoples-Jones, you're doing what you're supposed to do as a bigger receiver, going up over the smaller DB, making the catch for the touchdown. So I gave you my jersey number, 83.
Which is actually should be 100 because that's Harry Douglas's jersey number. That's homage to.
Come on, boy, looking out for me.
What you got, Gary?
I'm going to give him Jerry Rice's number. That's an 80. Based off of what Harry.
What are we doing?
Based off of what Harry said. Are you gonna receive praise if you shoot up the A gap, Trev, and get a 4-yard gain? No, because that's your job.
That's the equivalent of a 4-yard game. Is that what you're telling me? What we just saw, that's the equivalent of a 4-yard game.
What I'm saying is What I'm saying, listen, what I am saying is he did what he was supposed to do. Had that been a lineman, had that been any other positional player or not position player, any other player, it's going higher in my book. And I bet you if he's watching right now, he's okay with the 80 because he knows that's just business as usual. That's business as usual. You set your clock to those kind of plays.
I put up a tweet.
Wow.
For people, stop trying to get credit for things that you're supposed to do.
Thank you.
Jones, you're supposed to go up over that little bitty DB. Get down, little boy.
What are we doing?
Get out here, little boy.
What are we
doing? And go up and receive that ball and catch a touchdown and go back to the bench.
This is absurd. There's no rhyme or reason to what these two gentlemen are doing next to me.
It's these entitled children who just want praise for doing their job. Harry, I'm with you.
But the 98 wasn't just doing his job. What are we doing?
That's extra concentration.
Oh, get out of here.
That's extra concentration.
This entire scoring mechanism it should be in this next segment.
You understand
I'm tired
that
of it.
It's me and Harry against you this whole
Fire
time.
the full screen animation. Because I'm tired of these jokers. He's incredible. Bruh is all I can say to that, and it's all I can say to these next few plays. We start things off. Western Carolina, unfortunately, got ran through against Bama, and that's typical for the collection of individuals that typically side up against them. And Western Carolina's quarterback passes the ball, gets deflected back to him, and then he fumbles. Just bad look, bruh.
Ooh.
All kinds of he's terrified. and it's understandable.
Honestly, you buried the lead because he's terrified.
Bro, you look scared. Bro, you really didn't want to catch that ball back. Bro, you're running for your life. Bro, please don't hit me that hard, Mr. Alabama defender.
Shout out to him to not trying to make a second pass because that would have been illegal, and then that's another moment in and of itself. But I can't promise that he wasn't going to do that because he just fumbled the ball before he had a chance to. The next moment, a lot less action. And my man is like ashamed of his Rubik's Cube affection that he has. Like he's just privately at the Northwestern game. And it's also indicative of them being at Northwestern. This guy just solving his Rubik's Cube over to the side, just kind of getting it in.
He will learn to flex that brain power in the future.
Correct.
Cassidy Hubbard actually quote tweeted this and said, I don't know whether to have the most proud Northwestern alum moment of all time or what to think. I say the former. You gotta be proud about that. You know how many people on this planet Earth can solve a Rubik's Cube? Not many.
Listen, bruh, I'm with you. Bruh, little man, I love it. Listen, he's basically saying, Dad, I care nothing about this football game. This is the last game you need to bring me to. Dad, I'm into my studies and I'm into being something with myself without playing sports when I grow up.
Remember,
Dad, please get me out of my misery.
Can either one of you solve the
pen
Rubik's
is mightier than the sword. Absolutely not.
No.
I'm not
You misled me. I thought you were about to say yes.
Absolutely not.
I'm not even going to try.
I've wanted to, because obviously there's like a method to it, I guess. There's a pattern to
math
solving
equation.
it. But correct. But I ain't got it either.
Well, math wasn't my strongest subject, so get that out of here.
And I know many people would assume that math is mine, but nope.
Why would you say that, Gary?
Sure isn't.
Why would you say that, Gary?
Because I'm Polish, man. You went to Harvard. You should be able to solve that thing.
We're going to get in trouble. Next one. The mascots between Northwestern and Minnesota played a little rock, paper, scissors.
This is a game I can get used to as well. I'm actually
Wildcats win this one. They didn't win the game. I can appreciate this.
But why did the mascot drop like that? Like somebody just sucker punched
Just to let them know, I caught an L. Got Sniper 2, Tower 2. Got him.
We don't give enough credit to rock, paper, scissors settling so many debates that would otherwise go unsolved and arguments and who's getting shotgun and who's paying for this and who's paying for that. Without rock, paper, scissors, those are still compounding issues that we still will
they become a lot more divisive, without question.
Well, I'll tell y'all this.
Go ahead.
Bruh, can y'all just fight like animals normally do and stop playing paper, rock, scissors?
Pretty sure the Gopher would lose to whatever.
Yeah, I think Wildcat.
Wildcat.
Yeah, that's probably
Wildcat getting.
That's probably pretty fat.
Wildcat getting that
Semantic question. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot, or just rock, paper, scissors?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Shoot.
Ooh,
I agree.
It's rock,
Is that
paper,
geographical?
scissors.
Rock, paper,
So I grew up in the West. I grew up in Colorado. Rock, paper, scissors, and whatever you is.
All right, real quick.
Okay. Rock, paper, scissors.
Damn it, I forgot already. My bad.
See, the element of surprise. Because if you mess up, that's an automatic DQ. It's like Olympic sprinting. If you DQ, you're gone. You're done. Here we go.
See.
Rock, paper, scissors. Boom, you're out.
Yeah, you're out of here. No, matter of fact, take over. Go, what you got?
Okay, while these guys are catching L's, let me show you some of the best catches over the course of this week leading up to today. We call it Man Gimme That, and it's the best catches that we've accumulated and aggregated to a nice little bundle for you. And we're sticking with the smart kids. And actually, Harry, this is perfect for you because not only is the over-the-shoulder catch one of the most difficult to make, but the way he does it is putting him in first-round draft pick category.
Yep, he's tailing out of bounds. It's one of the most difficult catches you can make in any shape, form of football. It doesn't matter what it is. But to be able to have the awareness to get your foot down, know where you're at on the football field, still make the catch. And like you said, Mr. Tyler Johnson is having a hell of a year and will be a first-round draft pick in this year's NFL draft.
Man, need to go get his money. But, like, again, I can't emphasize this enough. Tracking that ball over the course of your shoulder, there's obviously a blind spot when you're having to look straight ahead or straight above your head. And to be able to reel that bad boy in over the course of it traveling across your body, thoroughly impressed.
Speaking of wide receiver, speaking of receivers, we're talking about so many receivers this season from a myriad of different schools who are first-round talents. You're saying Johnson right here, obviously all of Alabama's guys. You got Clemson's guys. You got CeeDee Lamb in Oklahoma.
At USC?
USC, there you go. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. We continue with Man Gimme That. That's Auburn's Jeremiah Denson. And we got to show extra love to the defensive backs. But, Harry, you say this man probably played offense at one point or another.
Listen, this guy, it wouldn't surprise me if he came to Auburn as an athlete, played some kind of offensive position, if he played a high offensive position in high school, because DBs just do not track the ball like that. And got 2 feet down.
Quick story time. Buddy of mine, Alex Norman, shout out to you. We went to Harvard together, played ball together. He came in thinking he was going to play receiver. We have red crimson jerseys for offense, white jerseys for defense. He had that white jersey hanging in his locker when he walked in, and he could not figure out why.
No!
It's like, cause I thought I was gonna be.
Mama, I want to come home.
Wait. Was that an upgrade for him, or was that like, oh man?
He's one of the best outside linebackers I've ever seen play the game, but like he really wanted to be a receiver. He was just so shook. He was so shook.
Oh man! All right, we got some more. Man, give me that. We're going to Big Ten country. Justin Fields has been spinning it all season long. Only 1 interception. The accuracy on point. This no different. Not only 1, but over 2 defenders. 1.5. 7 had his back turned. Up and over Harry Douglas.
Chris Olave is a special.
Well, I'll tell you this. Olave for this Ohio State team, week in and week out, when they need a big catch or a big touchdown, they've gone to him. So he's quietly making his way into their number 1 receiver. But when you make that catch over 2 people, lean on down. Unlike Peoples-Jones, lean on down. Talk that noise in his ear. Get up, little boy. I mean, you probably use other language, but once again, this is a family show, so we're not going to say that right here, right now on the college football show. But you whisper down in his ear, hey, get up, little boy. But you know what you're really supposed to say, guys.
Yeah. During our run-through that wasn't broadcast to the entirety of the internet, Harry used some other choice language, but he's allowed to because he did that collegiately and professionally over 1, 2, however many defenders you want to stick on him. He'll catch it over you. I got you, Harry. Look at that.
Get out of here,
Get
out of here, little boy.
that out. All right, we got our number 4th. Man, give me that. And we're going to West Virginia. I can't sing any more of that because it is what it is. This right here is George Campbell. And again, the over-the-shoulder changing of direction while you're running, ball is in flight. You can't talk about the complexity of this hookup.
I actually had a play exactly like this when I was at Louisville against Pittsburgh. 142 wide hook Z post. That was the exact call. And I was going on the post, and Braum threw the ball up in the air. So I'm thinking I'm going across the field to catch it. I look in the sky, and the ball is tailing back to my right. So that kind of catch is one of the hardest ones because you literally have to look that ball in from the moment you see it in the air, from the moment it hits your hands to the tuck.
See,
difficult, very difficult.
And I was also going to comment about like the stack that receiver ran, right? Like as he's getting into that route, he makes sure he essentially just boxes out the defender, just make sure you're right in front of him.
And kids, the most important thing about running a post route or a deep route, when you break for that post, you have to dig. Do not look at the quarterback. The ball is going out of his hands. Look in the sky, and I'm telling you, it'll be right there, so fly.
On the lowest of keys, I want like a rainbow animation.
Just in the bucket.
I want like
in the bucket.
A little animation over Harry's head, like just Harry's coaching tips. I just want to fire that off every now and again, just so he has a moment.
Gotta dig, kid.
I'm still stuck at what the play call was, and that's the difference between Harry Douglas, Orange Bowl champ, 10 years in the NFL, and me. What was the play call again?
142 wide hook Z post.
Love it.
I could break it down too. Quarters coverage, you get the tight end running a 12-yard basic route to grab the safety.
Yep.
Now I'm one-on-one with the corner. I stack them, dig, look in the air, touchdown Harry, touchdown that young man right there also.
Let's go.
Boom! We got one more. Man, give me that. And we're showing love to the defender. This is bad. Western Carolina, we know it was not your day. Xavier McKinney, though, is not very often. I don't even care if you play for the Crimson Tide and you are an elite defensive player. It's not very often you get your number called for a crib call. Not just a crib call, but for 80 yards. So you got to really relish that run back.
And that's the thing, too. Like this, we can talk ad nauseum about this Alabama defense and how they've been able to, despite not necessarily being the top elite level that we're used to seeing them being, they capitalize on turnovers. They put away games. We saw it against Tennessee. Little strip fumble recovery, running back to the end zone 4-6, and they do the same thing here.
That's the Bama team that we are used to. And that wasn't even his first interception of the day. That was his second one. So that same quarterback that we brud, he struggled a big time against that Alabama defense.
Man, give me that. And that concludes Week 13's best catches. I'm sure there were some other ones, but you get the
It's always fun to have a receiver on hand and to have that discussion.
No, I appreciate you having me on. That's why.
I love it, Gary.
Man, it's on top of it. So as we come, I appreciate that thoroughly. I really, really do. I appreciate your confidence. And let's talk about some other things that we've been appreciative of over the course of this here college football season. And it's been jam-packed with plenty of interesting moments, plenty of memes and such that have cycled through our internet streams and Twitter timelines and otherwise. But as we continue on the College Football Show presented by AT&T right here on Twitter, YouTube Live, and the ESPN app, my thankful moment, personally, is one that I'm just glad he's safe afterwards.
Oh, boy.
The young man from Mississippi State, the quarterback, I don't even know if y'all remember this. Week 1, they were going against Kansas State. He's rolling.
Oh, yeah.
And he had the gall to try to go up and over. And my man.
That was this season.
That was this season.
Wow. He's still in the air.
Helicopter man. That's his new name.
Down yet.
Helicopter man. Look at
3
helicopter
months
man.
later, he's still up there. Stratosphere, mesosphere, he's up there somewhere.
Let me tell you.
Dad, can I have helicopter man's jersey?
Once he comes down, son.
I just love that joint so much because, like, first of all, I'm reminded of just how reckless I wasn't when I played football. Like, you would never catch me dead.
And for the first time in Harvard football history, a running back slid? Wait, what? He had 20 yards of open space in front of him.
It wasn't even a 4-minute offense.
It was a heady
Self-preservation, kids. Yo,
what? I get
what?
to sit here these days.
Oh, wow.
Harry, Gary, which one of y'all want to take it on?
Go ahead, Harry.
What I'm thankful for this Thanksgiving is Coach Scott Satterfield, the head coach for the Louisville Cardinals. He has turned this program around. They only had 2 wins last year. They got their 7th win today. Yes, they became bowl eligible last week with a win against NC State, but this week we beat Syracuse. And also, shout out to Tutu Atwell, man, the first 1,000-yard receiver in Louisville history since the one and only Harry Douglas. So shout out to Tutu Atwell.
Listen,
man.
and not just that, but in the green room, this is just how much humility Harry has. I said, but like real talk, Harry, you don't want him to like be. That's your record. You are in the record books, number 1. Harry, what do you say? Records meant to be broken.
Records are meant to be broken. I just love seeing these young guys and these young men thrive, do great. Records are meant to be broken, man. And shout out to him because I think my record was like 1,200 yards in a season.
In your junior season, yeah?
Yep, he's over 1,000 right now, and he still has 2 games and the bowl game left. So he can potentially break that record. And when he does, I'm going to praise him and let him know how much I love him. Little bro, do your thing, baby.
Yeah, go get your money, young man. And I want to also touch on, like, what makes Satterfield such a great fit for that program? What exactly is he doing to kind of make sure this program is in the right direction going forward?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll give you the first example. When they played Notre Dame and they potentially had a chance to win that game, they had some mishaps. The first thing Coach Satterfield said in the locker room is that, hey, we don't do more victories here. So he set the tone early. He's a player's coach. He listens to his guys. They have so many gatherings and team functions that the program, I was out there for a walkthrough for the game against Clemson before on a Friday. Listen, the music blasting, the guys having fun. And I'm like, man, this is what football is supposed to be. And that's another reason why you see these older coaches getting pushed out a little bit and these younger guys coming in because, like time, you have to adapt to the change and the way things are in the now. The way you did things back in the day doesn't work now. These kids are different. Well, these young men are different now. And that's
You
how
got to
they thrive,
account for
man.
it. You got to account for it. And I
Exactly.
think that's something else that Ryan Day, too, at Ohio
Yes, he
State has
does.
sort of changed the sort of feel around that program. It just feels like they're having a lot more fun. Not that Urban Meyer wasn't a dang
Coach
good
O,
coach.
too, at LSU.
Right. Yeah, same deal. Like, just fun to be had around the sport of football. And that's the only way you're going to be able to go out there in a 13 to 15-week grind and be able to enjoy every last second of it, is if you love the folks that you're out there with and the time that you spend.
And I'll say this, there's nothing like a coach that believes in you 100% at all times, no matter what. Gives you the tough love, but praises you when you go out there and ball out also.
Yes, so all of that to be appreciated. Gary, what do you appreciate from this college football season?
Give me the Jalen Hurts redemption.
Oh, yeah.
Tour. This guy is balling out, and I think he earned a spot in football fans' hearts when we saw like his humility and how humble he was when he got beat out for the job and stood up in front of every single camera week in and week out on a national stage and saying, listen, I wholeheartedly want Tua Tagovailoa to do his thing, and he did his thing. They won the national championship, and then what was it? 2 seasons ago when he had to step up while Tua was missing some time, still led the team there, and then as soon as he was done, took the back seat again.
But I wish this, man. I wish they wouldn't have lost to Kansas State, because I wanted him to go out with even a better story and get a chance to play in the college football playoffs and have a chance to win a national championship with a different team as the starting quarterback.
But not just that, but the position that he's put now Oklahoma in. Yes, they do have the one loss at this point, but what he's been able to do so far this season, and he was in those early Heisman talks, and obviously we're still talking about him balling. He's having an incredible year.
He'll be a finalist.
28 touchdowns. He's going to make the trip to New York, most likely. 28 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and it's the way he goes about his business. And I know a lot of people were like talking, not trash, but they're talking spicy. Oh, after when he's in the weight room, putting up weights in his football pants. But like all this guy wants to do is win football games, be a good leader, and like lead by example. And that's all he's done since he was replaced at halftime in the national championship game.
He's definitely a great role model for young kids coming up today to see how to do things. He didn't immediately say, okay, I want out of Alabama. He waited, he relaxed.
He's grinding.
When the opportunity presented itself, that's when he went to another school. But he did things the right way, and he's a stand-up young man in my eyes.
He is absolutely cold-blooded, somebody you can absolutely just root for regardless of his circumstances. You just want a young cat like that to thrive. As we're doing all this celebrating of each other and the folks that have been involved in this college football year, let's talk spicy. Let's get some controversial food takes. Obviously, I'm sure each and every one of you all have seen the circulation of one specific tweet asking for your controversial food takes, right? It's a very poignant discussion point. And I'll start with mine. I thought long and hard about this. Like, we were trying to figure out exactly what I was going to say for this. And
I can't wait.
I honestly, I don't think any of my food takes are controversial. I think I'm right on everything. I think I'm pretty much in the flow.
Trevor, stop burying the lead. Say something spicy.
No. I have Pink Starburst is overrated.
What?
Overrated.
If you wasn't the host on this show, Trevor, I swear. If you wasn't the
overrated.
What? I'll kick your chair
How are
over
you
right
gonna
now.
It's not that it's not good. It's overrated.
In the grand
pink
scheme of Starburst?
When I open the Starburst, the first Starburst I look for is the pink one.
And I think that's valid.
If I get those 2-packs during Halloween and the pink or red one's not in there, guess where that 2-pack's going? The trash. The trash.
Nobody wants yellow or orange.
It's good. It's good.
What's the best Starburst?
I didn't say it was like. I didn't say it was.
Okay, so you
worse.
can't just throw that out there, but then not have a definitive position.
But that is absolutely a definitive position. It is overrated in the sense of like everybody gassing it to be the best candy ever. Like, no, we're not doing that.
What do the people think?
The fact that we have to have like an all pink pack of Starburst, that's unnecessary. That's superfluous. It's just
there's demand for it. You give them supply because there's a demand.
Nah.
There's no orange bag.
Okay, you want to know something? Like, look, if you want to get into supply demand arguments, like this is not the thing you want to do with your boy.
Hey, watch out now, the man with the Harvard-Yale.
I can assure you, right? Like, because if you
chill out with your macroeconomics, dude. Chill out with that. What's yours, Harry?
What's yours?
Listen, I was part of that tweet thread, and I think drinking cold water is uncomfortable, and people really shouldn't be doing it. The only reason they do is because it's what they're used to. My real water drinkers out there know, and I'm making direct contact in the camera for people to convert. Room temperature water is where it's at, and that's the most delicious. That's the most thirst quenching. Room temperature water. Put it on my headstone. Yeah, put that on my headstone. I drink room temperature
I was
water.
going to say just room temperature
Yeah,
water.
that's it.
That's just
Not my name.
Hopefully, it's a long time before they have your head stuck.
Nothing,
Okay.
just
I went to
room temperature water.
Louisiana. Fortune teller told me I was going to die at 97, so I got some time. But ice water,
That's a
cold
good
water
turn.
is overrated, uncomfortable to drink room temperature water all day.
I'll say for me, it's spicy food. I don't like spicy foods at all. It's nasty. It's terrible. I get heartburn. It makes me go to the restroom, if y'all get my drift. So spicy foods, no.
Really?
Okay, is it unnecessarily spicy, or is it just like
everything
any
that could-
hint of spice,
Yep.
you're out? So
done.
like buffalo wings, like you're just out on.
I always try to get them like mild and with light sauce.
Like spicy
And I
chicken
dip it-
sandwich.
I don't eat spicy chicken sandwiches.
Yeah,
can't do
he's
Have you
missing
had
out on
one?
life.
I can't eat them, Gary.
But how?
I would like to feel great when I'm eating food, not be miserable
That's
when
fair.
I'm eating
Again, but like there's a certain level of spice that you can achieve that like doesn't make you cry or sweat unnecessarily.
food. See, the most lights of spicy
Don't
make my nose run.
Do not tell me pepper makes you. Is pepper spicy?
Okay.
Is pepper
That's-
spicy?
that's-
It
that's
depends
far.
on what kind of pepper you
No. Like
Not
he's
all,
talking about
like-
pepper in the seasoning,
like black pepper.
ground pepper,
Like
Oh,
salt and
no,
pepper.
see, I can't do that.
Okay.
Like I don't like spice. I don't like
Like
anything that's gonna
black
give me
pepper.
heartburn and
Like
make
the
my throat
seasoning.
itch.
Like black pepper.
The seasoning. We're gonna have to hash this out.
Can
off
y'all
camera.
two not
I'm
hear?
so sorry that we ran out of time on the College Football Show presented by AT&T. That's Gary Striewski. That's
Keep
Eric
black
Douglas.
pepper
He
away
has
from
very
this man.
interesting food takes.
Wow.
That's been week 13. There's a lot to discuss, and it has nothing to do with football. So we're gonna hash that out. Y'all enjoy the rest of the night.
Black pepper. Too spicy. Yo, that's hilarious.
It's the same though. The black pepper.